I was super satisfied with the way that I traded it the 2 days that we did trade it, and it wasn't giving what we want. I'm pretty sure the first day
Yeah.
there I lost 500, and then the second day there yeah, that day I lost 500 just because I was taking too much size and I was pretty emotionally connected to it. And then the next day I avoided that somehow. I made like a small profit on that squeeze. So
Mhm.
then I was going into the first red day only down $300 when it really was the first red day. And that's kind of key to only be down a little amount when it's actually the first red day, and like getting the experience to trade it for the last couple days to get a feel for it. So then I can clearly define the different action from the last 2 days to the first sell off.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Twist here. Today is the 28th of April. We're filming this one 2 days in advance. Usually we just do a day before. But I was curious, since our last episode, you had some stocks on your radar like INO and DECN, and I was just curious how your trading's been since our last episode last Wednesday.
Yeah. So our INO and DECN kind of theses and thought processes turned out to be right, as how most of the tickers play out, like we were saying. Yeah, we'll show the charts in a little bit. But anyway, so both theses were ended up being right. I got short those. I posted my trades and executions on Twitter there, so you can go see those. But this week's I'm having a really strong week ending April. Today was a really good day. Made about 3,800, which is my best day of the month. So just really happy with how things are going. I thought things were going to slow down, but we just keep getting, solid plays coming along. So I'm super happy with it.
Sweet, man. What about you, Jack?
The week's going really good so far. Today and yesterday were just jam-packed full of opportunities with some nice framework type plays on these multi-day movers like INO and NMHLY. Were a couple nice first red days the last couple days here. NMHLY being today and INO being yesterday. And we also had some more follow through on INO weakness today as well. So really good for me and Kyle because we were all over that. And other than that, been seeing a bunch of other opportunity just on some plays like NAT and Tilray and just all these first red days that I didn't even see play out until
Yeah.
it was at the end.
SDEL.
I was like, there was 10 first red day setups today, but I think me and Kyle still did a good job at picking the ones that we were the most comfortable with and the most experienced with. And that's kind of key when there's so much opportunity around everywhere. You really need to be focused on what opportunity makes the most sense to you.
Exactly. And when you try to play like all those tickers, like if you try to play all 10, I'm sure it would have been a headache and might not even been as good of a day.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I'm gonna pull up stocks to trade here. We're just gonna get a brief overview of the stocks that we're gonna talk about, and then I'm gonna let Kyle take over the screen, and he's gonna, with Jack, explain the thesis. So on last Wednesday was the 22nd, which was this green day here, and they were talking about how they don't want to short it right away, might squeeze a little more, and it did. It squeezed 2 more days, but then eventually that first red day that they were talking about and looking for actually came, and we're gonna get into that a little bit. DECN was an awesome call by them. This was the day we recorded the last episode, and on the next day is when they had their little news announcement, a huge panic pop, and then actually, as you can see, it's red. It's halted here by the SEC. So, huge win there for the short sellers. And then today, they traded really well on NMHLY, which is another OTC stock, which just has had a massive run. And, clear, nice downtrend here. And they really did a great job taking advantage of it. So, Kyle, you want to pull up your screen here? Should be able to.
Let's do it. Okay, so we had our talk. Was it on? Yeah, the 22nd. Was that it?
Yep.
Yeah. So the 22nd, it had it just continued its uptrend since when its ran start. So from 7, we're now at 12. And so, like me and Jack said, we didn't want to get a step on the front side. We were going to let this, really have its backside move to really kind of be correct, right? We're not just going to stab into strength or just stab on the front side. We want to wait to see signs. And so on this day, on the 23rd, we actually did start to see this only because if you look in the intraday here, it's now tried to spike, failed, tried to spike again, made a new high day, failed again. And so at this point, we were getting very interested. We started shorting, in this area. I think we actually, Jack, we cut right here, didn't we? Because it was starting to be too strong.
Yeah, I think I was downsizing around that area when it started to hold above VWAP.
Right. And so I think ultimately we did re-enter. We did catch some of these bounces. But ultimately, I remember I covered around here just because it wasn't acting the way I wanted to and the way I've seen it in the past. From trading it in the previous run-ups it's had, when it's really weak, it is clear as day. And the fact that this kept making even right here where it makes a new low day only 5 or 10 cents, made a new low day here only 5 or 10 cents, made another lower day here only 5 cents. So the more it does that, and there's no complete breakdown where all these longs are get me the hell out, I start to think this isn't breaking down as much. So I remember covering all right here, and then it actually did go lower, and I was looking for the second red day, but again, it actually held green this day and kept squeezing. So between these 2 days, I think we ended up break even. I think Jack might have had a couple losses or break even as well. So we let it run. We let it really squeeze up into 15s, and then come into yesterday. This is the weakness we want to see, right? So, if we go back from here today, from the day I was really talked about, it pulled from 1350 down to 1250. So barely $1 share. And even then it took a whole hour to chop around and barely break those levels. Here, immediately right out the open, we go from 1650 all the way down to below 1450. So in terms of percentages, in terms of range, there's clearly much more bigger selling off on this day. So that kept us pretty convicted. I think we were all covered up by here. We avoided the midday bounce. We then reshorted and covered all into this 13 wash for a really nice gain. And then the next day today we shorted again, considering it was the first red day yesterday, and now it's likely a second red day today. And again, super weak, right? The bounces are less choppy. They're straightforward. Right after they end, they're very weak. And so we made another, grand or two today. And now, I think the predictable part of the move is over. Either it goes higher or goes lower, but after having 2 red days in a row and ultimately kind of ruining this red day and closing break even, the easiest money and the most predictable money is over in my opinion, at least. What do you think, Jack?
I agree with all of that, with what you said. And I was super satisfied with the way that I traded it the 2 days that we did trade it, and it wasn't giving what we want. I'm pretty sure the first day there I lost 500, and then the second day there that day I lost 500 just because I was taking too much size and I was pretty emotionally connected to it. And then the next day I avoided that somehow. I made a small profit on that squeeze. So then I was going into the first red day only down $300 when it really was the first red day. And that's kind of key, to only be down a little amount when it's actually the first red day, and getting the experience to trade it for the last couple of days to get a feel for it. So then I can clearly define the different action from the last 2 days to the first sell-off. And really it was just like Kyle was saying, there's more range to the downside and there's more volume. So that's kind of what we noticed, and we're like, okay, this is probably it, because every time it goes higher, the more volume that comes in, it's just getting higher and higher odds as it keeps extending yourself. And it's just so key to not get pre-exhausted on the front side and just take a massive loss. You need to be taking small losses. And then I was able to capitalize about 3.6 grand in profits on it yesterday, and then today I made 1,800 on it. So obviously way more than my $300 loss.
I want to add on that. Taking those paper cuts is huge, right? If me and Jack were, being too stubborn or being overly aggressive, and we took, massive losses on these 2 days, right? Coming into the days that mattered the most, we would have been very timid and very scared, just because we're humans, and we to say that we're not going to let our previous trades on it not affect us is very hard to do. And so the fact that we did protect ourselves and ultimately recognize the signs that it was still strong, we're able to then lead us to these days where we recognize where the signs were weak, and we're able to stay aggressive and ultimately, nail the first and second red day. So
absolutely, you guys did a great job just preserving your mental capital, because I know wasn't the easiest short in terms of shorts. It was a big short squeeze, so it was tough. So I mean, just from an outside perspective, great job keeping the losses small, preserving your mental capital, and waiting for just the best opportunity.
Yeah, that's what I was most happy with this trade, was how good I preserved my mental capital, and then knowing when to scale on the backside.
Rock on.
So we're moving on to DECN.
Hop right over.
All right. So DECN, I forget the exact words we said coming onto the episode, but I think I remember the lines of, we know how most majority of these ends, it could keep going higher, but ultimately a backside is coming. And so it's, I think we've talked about this with CYDY, it's one of those things where I'm not going to try to guess where it's going to go or how great it is. But ultimately kind of take it as guilty and proven innocent. So it had a great run today. I did actually make $500 on the breakout over 30 or 30 cents. So that was cool. But from here on out, it is still extended from, what was that, 18 cents to now nearly touch 40 today. So, whatever the price action tells me going forward is the direction I'm going to take it. So, if it has a red day tomorrow, I probably will short. If it keeps going higher, then great. I probably won't chase it any higher, but that's just my view on it. DECN was in a unique situation because they had already released, a new or announcement saying there was going to be news that came out on Thursday. So it's not a certainty, but it's, as experienced traders, we recognize that there might be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of scenario, where this run up from, under 20 cents now up over 50 cents, 40 to 50 cents, isn't a run up of anticipation of this news. And so if it's running solely because of that news might be priced in. And so me and Jack were just waiting for how the stock would react once the news dropped. Me personally, I had no idea this move was going to happen, but seeing the news hit and not even I didn't even know what the PR said. I didn't even know what the news was. I have no idea what was said in the news, but just immediately seeing the price action, and I immediately reacted and then just played it from there. So we saw this today. Me and Jack made a couple $100, $2,000 going long on this. I don't think we longed it overnight, but kind of off the open, it gapped up and it was actually breaking over this 40 level. We actually immediately got long because you can see here, these 2 candles, these 2 minutes here, there was a lot of selling and it wasn't budging. It wasn't going down. So at that point, me and Jack, I think were on the phone and we were like, this isn't dropping. Like, this is going to keep going up. So we actually ended up longing. I screwed it up, ended up selling for break even on this dip like an idiot. Jack made a few $100. And so I think after that, we then kind of just stayed away and we're going to wait for this news. And so because we're experienced, we were expecting a sell the news scenario. So we were looking for how it would react when the news hits, when it starts selling. And so I believe the news got hit, right? Was it like 1026 or 1027, Jack? Right around there?
Yeah.
You can hit the little horn thing and it'll pop up.
Oh, really? Let's see here. Okay, a little bit earlier then. So at that point, we see this volume coming in. Let me pull it to the side here. We see this massive red candle come in with selling. And so at that point, we're like, okay, the news dropped, it's selling, we need to get short. And so if you were even seconds later than that, you weren't going to get filled. I only got filled half size. Jack, did you even get filled in this or no?
I got filled a third size.
Right. So even us being as quick as we were, we missed our chance to get full size. And this action was incredible. I mean, I thought I was going to be able to cover under 30 cents within maybe a day or two. We were able to cover under 30 cents within 2 minutes. Just absolutely insane. I covered in the low 20s. I actually missed this dip buy because I was such in shock that it dropped so hard like this. Jack nailed the dip buy, and then we started sizing into this bounce because I like zooming out like this. When you zoom out like this, you see how volatile it is. When you have a panic that's so volatile like this, there's a bounce that's going to be volatile, and when you have the bounce that's just as volatile, it's going to keep on having that massive swings, right? Like a bouncing ball. So we also shorted this bounce. We then covered into these dips here, and then that was that. And now they are halted by the SEC because they were just, a sketchy coronavirus, fluffy PR company to begin with. So the SEC is investigating them, and that's that pretty much. So.
Jack, could you talk about, I know you got a dip buy off on that. Could you talk and really focus on the dip buy part of this trade?
Okay, so for me, I was kind of pissed that I only filled a third of my size on the short, and I kind of had already Kyle did a lot better of a job at trying to actually time the bottom of his short. But for me, I kind of just threw out the window where I only had a third size and it was down at like 25 or something. And I didn't try to time the level 2 turn um, with my short. So I just kind of covered that when it was going red, and it was just an insane drop because I knew that there was a dip buy opportunity coming. And I knew that I could take more size on the dip buy. I could probably get better risk reward. So when I saw the massive volume coming through around that 22 cent area and the huge volume extension, I started slapping orders in on the ask. I threw in a few orders and I got filled 4 times the amount of size that I had on the short. And then unfortunately, I never, ever have sold the dip buy at the top of the bounce. I always sell too early and then I start shorting. So I sold the dip buy around like 28 or 29. But from 22, that was a phenomenal percent return, phenomenal trade, and I was super happy with it. And then it ended up bouncing all the way to, what was it, almost 40 cents. And me and Kyle got something like a 37 average, and then we wrote it down back to sub 30 and we covered there. So just being able to nail the nice little trifecta trade on that and take advantage of the volatility, I was super happy with. And we almost got exactly a second opportunity today on that NMHLY, where it had the same kind of panic, same kind of bounce opportunity. So I'm super happy with the way I traded that, specifically just being able to be quick enough and being able to go long and short. It's very deadly once you're able to think that quick enough and not be so one-sided. So that's come with my experience and just going from long to then a short seller. I still can nail some of these dip buys when they're super ideal.
What got you interested and like how did you find NMHLY?
I'm pretty sure one of my buddies said yesterday when I was breaking high day, he called it a swizzle. And I saw it yesterday and I was like, I'm red on swizzles this year. I'm not going to take it, but it ended up being absolutely the best swizzle of the entire year, from 55 cents to $1 in what was it, like 30 minutes?
Yeah, so, like 50. Yeah, so broke out like 1 o'clock.
I've talked about before, and just phenomenal action. And then once I saw that, me and Kyle were like, all right, well, we missed the long, but there's going to be a short opportunity on this because it's now extended from basically 7 cents to $1. So it's up 1,000%. So coming in today, we were watching for that red move, but we did end up taking some feelers and some shorts on the front side. We shorted that morning spike and covered into the dip too quickly, and then unfortunately we got a little bit of FOMO and we shorted that bounce there when it was kind of topping off over $1, and then it squeezed up and we just kind of got chopped around there for a small loss / break even. But then when it finally went red there, that's when we were able to capitalize on the volatility like decking again. So we shorted the red move, and we got a really sweet panic from 85 cents to 55, and just once again, what was it, 10 minutes? And that's just 30 cents on a sub-dollar stock. That's amazing volatility. And then I was able to long the bounce again for 10 cents and then short the bounce again and cover into the pull for another 10 cents. So hitting the trifecta again on the volatility. And that's really when you can grow your account, because you're able to get paid quickly a large percent return, because the volatility is so severe in each direction that when it turns. Kind of like Tim Grittani's $200,000 Fannie Mae day, it's just not to the extent or the volume that ticker had. These are just kind of smaller scale trades, but they're still good, for a few grand a day. And that's exactly what Tim Sykes has taught me and Kyle, is to, 2K keeps the 9 to 5 away, and just showing up and taking those low risk trades to make our few $1,000s a day. It's going to add up to a fortune over the long haul if we stick to our process.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull up my screen here just so we end off on what stocks you guys are looking for the rest of this week and maybe into next week trading. So before this, we talked about CREX. This one today was just a huge squeezer. Let me pull up the daily chart here. As you can see, the volume's absolutely knocked, 60 million. It went from $1 and now it's trading at $4.50 after hours. So what are you guys looking for in a stock like CREX?
So we'll be watching CREX into the end of this week here, and it's just an absolutely insane squeezer now, going from $1 to $5, $4, whatever it's at right now. And me and Kyle will be once again be watching for the backside on this, and there's no need to step in the way of this because of how many shorts got bent into the close there. It's still not given an opportunity for the shorts to get out at a good price. People that keep adding into this one, as you can see on the end of day squeeze there's absolutely no dip even somewhat close to the VWAP area besides that 1-230 dip, but over high a day, it just was beautiful price action and a beautiful squeeze. And if you see there that action from 1 to 3 where the volume was low and it was fading, that is a trap right there. And once they PR and that massive volume comes in, people that are stubborn and all their profits that they've been fading it all down, oh, it's dead. And when it comes back over that VWAP area, if they're not quick to react and take off their trade and they just kind of let it squeeze, like it turns into a huge loss. So there's going to be no way I'll step in front of this thing. I need to see some clear failing. I honestly hope it has a pretty big gap up and push tomorrow, depending on the volume at the open. But if we see weakness and action under VWAP where bounces are rounding off and the pops are failing, I'm sure me and Kyle will be shorting it and looking probably for fade back down to the $3 range, mid threes maybe. So just depending on the gap tomorrow, ideally it just goes another day, but we will see how the action looks like tomorrow. Anything else you got on that one, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree with everything. I love what you said about the dips here. Like, I think that's the mistake that some short traders make, where if it breaks their wrist, they're like, okay, I'll cover it to the next dip. Well, one like this didn't really give you a dip. Every time it stopped going up, it really just went sideways. Spike, sideways, spike, sideways, spike, sideways. So it's like any short seller that wanted to maybe get out at a better price or kind of just get out on a pullback, like they didn't get it. So there's shorts still caught in this. Yeah, I could easily keep running. But like Jack said, we'll be waiting for when the price action shows us to get in, and then we'll be short. There you go.
And the other one these guys are watching is CYDY, which has been a coronavirus runner. I think we talked about it at least maybe 2 weeks ago or the week before. But it spiked up on vaccine news. They actually had a conference here, ended up breaking out. It's kind of a choppy daily chart, but I'm going to pull up intradaily here. And Kyle, why don't you talk about what you and Jack are looking for on this one?
Yeah, so we made a couple mistakes yesterday. So if you scroll into the 27th there, so like I said, this thing was running up very similar to DECN as there was supposed to be a conference, right? They had a conference call coming at 1 p.m. Eastern, and so we were looking forward to that, right? We didn't think it was going to be as obvious as DECN. But we were looking for a reaction, right? We were looking for, was it going to spike? Was it going to panic? Like, how was this conference call going to affect this stock? Because it's already overextended from now the low 2s back up to 3. It's at its breakout level, so there's clear resistance at 350. Where is it going to go? It's at a key, inflection point in the chart. And so if you look at the action between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m., like, see how it starts to sell off there? Yeah, right there. We actually started getting short because it was panicking even before the news was out. So we thought it doesn't matter what they say, the price action is already telling us what the news is going to mean. And so we're short at this point, and the conference call starts, and for whatever they said, whatever it was, whatever sparked these shareholders' interests, it starts spiking, right? And so I had to cut it over 350. I think Jack did the same. So, and between 5 minutes from 350 to 370, shorts got blown out. So I took like an $800 loss. I don't know how much Jack lost. I think he made. Did you make money, Jack, or did you break even?
Well, we tried buying the breakout there in the morning with the massive volume. So we took a small loss there, and then I had a little bit better of an entry on the short there, but I had more size. So I took about the same size loss. I think I was down about $1,000 on CYDY, and that was losing about 500 long and 500 short. So they were manageable losses for me. It was just kind of funky price action that me and Kyle didn't really expect, and it kind of got us on both sides. But we still protected ourselves, and we didn't take that, 2 or 3 grand loss and get back a day or two worth of profits. We protected ourselves for the somewhat, and we lost 500, 800, whatever it is, and that's still acceptable. And it was just a little bit different of a situation, and we had a little bit too much confidence being back in. So yeah, we'll learn from it and be a little bit more cautious on the news releases in the future on conference calls, instead of just thinking that they always have to go down.
So I actually made a little money on the short side today. Once it went red on the day, this was the first time it went red in the last 2 or 3 days. So that's just my typical strategy of mine. If it goes red for the first time, I do have to give it a shot. So I did make a few $100 on that one. I didn't reshort the bounce, but I am actually looking for tomorrow to be another red day. Similar strategy as like INO, right? After the first red day, a second red day is likely to follow. It doesn't mean it has to happen. Tomorrow, if I do see a gap down and it really can't get over 350 where it closed, I do want to get short and maybe ride it down to the low 310. But we'll see. Ultimately, I'm going to react to whatever the price action gives me. My thesis going into tomorrow.
Guys, I think that wraps up this episode. Thanks so much for sharing your trades and your thoughts going forward. And this will go live Thursday, so there'll be a day in between, and we'll see how these thesis plays out. You guys are 100% so far, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll miss on one of them eventually. Yeah, so we'll see.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one, guys.